talk to you just for a few minutes about deep collaboration. Not collaboration that is forced and fearful, or collaboration that is fast and furious, but collaboration that has impact and integrity. When we collaborate, we don't just talk together, though that's an important part of it. We also work together. Collaboration is co-labor, to labor together. It's important work, and it's hard work, and it is impactful work. And one of the first people who understood this in teaching probably wrote the most important book about teaching that has ever been written 40 years ago. And his name was Dan Lorty. And he wrote a book called School Teacher. He interviewed 94 teachers in the greater Boston area. And he asked them about the work they did, how they felt about it, what their day was like, what a good day felt like. And after he'd interviewed all these 94 teachers, he came up with a conclusion about what he called a culture of teaching that was pervasive throughout the job. And this had three characteristics. The first was individualism. Teachers, he found, mainly taught by themselves, in isolation, in the egg crates of their own classrooms, separated from other teachers, with no feedback about what they did or moral support for when things went badly. Second was presentism. Presentism meant that teachers tended to focus on things that would immediately make a difference with their own children here and now within their own classes, rather than vaguely investing in curriculum planning or interdisciplinary innovation, or things that in general would have a return in a few months or a few years or perhaps never at all. And the third thing was what he called conservatism, with a small c. Conservatism was, instead of making big changes that would affect the whole school or the whole system, that they actually concentrated on changes that would make a difference with their own students, who they could immediately affect. These three things had a functional relationship. They interacted with each other and were mutually reinforcing. And this book had an enormous influence because, beginning about 10 years later, people started to take it up, at first in research and then in strategy. And they felt that if we want less conservatism in teaching, if we want more innovation, more risk-taking, more project-based work, more exploration related to things that children were truly interested in, given the diverse backgrounds that they came from, then we should have less individualism. There was a kind of equation that less conservatism meant less individualism. Of course, Lorty was forgetting the third thing, which was presentism, and we'll come back to that in a few minutes. But first, the good news. People took up this idea and first of all showed in research that indeed in New York State, in 78 schools in Tennessee, and 300 teachers in the United Kingdom, over and over again, they found the same conclusions, that teachers who worked together collaboratively got better results with their students, even in very simple tested areas like literacy and mathematics, compared to teachers who worked alone. If you work with other people, you feel support when things go badly. You have access to other people's ideas. You can expand the range of strategies that you have to meet the needs of your diverse learners. Not only can teachers do this, but school districts can do this. Whole countries can do this in terms of how they learn from each other over time, rather than being insulated in their own little egg crate with no feedback from their peers. This is a crucial finding, and then it led to strategic work. People thought, if these are the findings, what we can do is we can actually build collaborative cultures. We can create things called professional learning communities. And Shirley Hord, now in her 80s, but an enormously influential researcher in this field, defined professional learning communities like this. Very simply, there are three things. First, they're about learning. And because they're about learning, they're about the students learning. So when we work together, we focus on the students learning. They're about the teachers learning. Teachers have to be able to learn just as much as the students do. And third, they're about the organizations learning, so that whenever we have a problem, we don't rush to a solution and think we have this policy, this reaction. But first of all, we think not what we must do, but what is it that is the difficulty here, and how might we be able to solve it together. They're about learning, and they're communities. And they're communities in the sense that we focus on the students as a community, and as a community, we care for the people we serve together, and also we care about each other as adults in this community. We care about our mutual well-being as well as the people that we serve. And as well as being learning communities, they're professional learning communities, which means a couple of things. It means we take the evidence seriously, the evidence of research, the evidence of the data that we collect, the evidence of our own judgment. And we talk about this in a grown-up, responsible way where we can discuss our differences and our difficulties as well as the things on which we easily agree. Professional learning communities, collaboration, working together, deep collaboration, not that is forced and fearful or fast and furious, but that has integrity and impact. But there are two threats to this kind of deep collaboration. There's an enemy within and there's an enemy without. The enemy within is that people have sometimes added to the reduction of individualism an increase in presentism. So they want people to collaborate, but they want them to collaborate more quickly. They don't want to spend time building trust, forming relationships, riding around on buses in the dark to get to know each other to distant locations. But they immediately want people to get into teams, into what Richard Sennett called a turnstile of transient teamwork, where you'll have data before you. You'll focus on things that other people have decided for you rather than things that you have chosen yourself. You'll look at spreadsheets. You'll identify whether people are amber, green, or red, and you'll worry about the reds and you'll worry about the ambers, and immediately you'll focus on them, and you'll never think about why the greens are greens or celebrated what you did to turn them green. You're collaborating about other people's things, not your own things. You're focusing on hasty interventions rather than rich conversations on long-term sustained conclusions, or indeed collusions. This is the first threat. It's the enemy within, and it leads to what is called data-driven improvement, where the data take over so much in terms of what we do that teachers become data-driven to distraction and forget to focus on the depth of learning that is at the heart of their work and of the people that they serve. The enemy without is quite different. They don't want collaboration at all. They want competition. They want individualism. They want teachers to be forced what to do with standardized scripts and sit in the dark by themselves. It's a kind of torture. If we treated countries or other people this way and said, we will tell you what to do, it will be autocratic. You will have no freedom. You will have no choice. And you will we will separate you from each other as teachers. We will separate you from each other as schools. We will separate you from each other as systems. We will regard this as a kind of abuse. But this is what some people want to do to schools and want to do to teaching, to make them autonomous, so autonomous that they're separate from each other, get no help, get no support, get no learning, and to do this in a speeded up way that they've no time to concentrate on the long-term things that make a difference. And they'll find research to justify what they do. They'll find research that says collaboration is overrelated, or that professional development has no impact and no effect, and therefore we shouldn't develop teachers at all. We shouldn't have them collaborate. We shouldn't provide the money or the time or the investment or the taxpayers' dollars for them to do it. But what we should do instead is evaluate them individually in relation to test scores and make them compete against each other, and pay those who do really well and get rid of those who do really badly. A system that works in things like General Electric or in Amazon.com where every year we remove the bottom percentage in relation to the formal evaluations that we do. The evidence of this is it has no systematic impact on the improvement of performance at all, but ideologically we repeat our efforts to try this over and over again. What we want is not collaboration that's fast and furious, not collaboration that's forced and fearful, or a world where there's no collaboration at all, but one where we truly have communities of people who work together and support each other for a common cause. Learning communities that focus on everyone's learning, the children, the adults, the organizations. And professional learning communities that do this in relation to evidence and judgment in a grown-up, responsible way. If we do all this, we will remember the words of Helen Keller, which are, "It is better to walk together with someone else in the dark than it is to walk alone in the light." But even better than Helen Keller, as all the participants in the Atlantic Rim Collaboratory understand as they sit on the edge of the Arctic, is that when one goes together with others into the depth of night and looks north, there you will see, in the midst of dark, the magic of some of the best light in the world. And this is deep collaboration, professional learning communities. Thank you.